Presented by ClutchPoints and our friends at Blue Wire. I am your host, Blake Lovell. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dillon Reagan. And Dillon, we've got an exciting guest on the show here with us today. And we've been talking about football all season long. We're talking about all these guys on the field. Well, finally, we actually get someone on here with us for the first time here this offseason. So, Dillon, I'll let you introduce him, as I know he is someone that a lot of people who listen to our show probably know a little bit about.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the Ravens or not, obviously, you know the big dude that's always standing in front of Lamar Jackson, setting all the lanes for him. That's Patrick Ricard. He's been back-to-back Pro Bowler. If they haven't been having fullbacks on the All-Pro list for a while. Otherwise, I'm sure he would be as well. But yeah, man, you're obviously someone that we've been watching for a while. I've seen you. I'll ask you a bit about a game last year in Los Angeles where you kicked my favorite team's ass pretty hard. But yeah, it's great to have you on, and appreciate you taking the time here, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, thanks guys for having me on. I'm excited to be here, talk some football. So ask away, guys.
All right, Pat. Certainly, we're having you on shortly after the Super Bowl. Everyone has an opinion on the Super Bowl. We read your tweets. You gave a nice little message to the New England Patriots fans. What did you think just from watching Super Bowl?
Leading up into it, everyone kept asking me, who do you think is going to win the game? And I just had a weird feeling the Bucs. I mean, you just can't count out Tom Brady. Like, no matter who they're playing, like, it does not matter. They had a close game. I think it was like week 12 they played. Chiefs by, I think it was like 24-20. So it was a close game. And man, I just had a feeling, Tom Brady and those Bucs are gonna do something. And I didn't think they were gonna shut them out to no touchdowns. That was very surprising. And I watched the game with my wife's side of the family, and my sister-in-law was like excited to watch it because she wanted to see Gronk and Brady do that. that tweet out, and I thought it was hilarious because a lot of people in New England are still pretty salty that they're not playing for their team anymore and they're playing for the Bucs. And it was just so fitting that Gronk scored 2 touchdowns that game, and I was just happy for those guys. I mean, I grew up watching them, and I still, keep my tabs on different Patriot players or just a team here and there. And I was mostly excited for Brady to leave the team, go down there first year with the team, and he wins the Super Bowl. Like, it just solidifies his status as the best ever. So I enjoyed the game for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned, I was going to ask you, because you're from Massachusetts, obviously, so you grew up, I'm sure, a Pats fan. And sure enough, obviously, like you said, have a lot of friends that still are. Oh, man, I can't even imagine. So you grew up in Massachusetts, but you went to school in Maine, obviously, right? So that was your one D1 offer that you got. Tell us a bit about that and how that experience. I know I'll get more to your transition to, playing defensive line to fullback, but just talk a bit about your experience at Maine and how that helped you and eventually transitioning to the NFL.
Yeah, like you said, it was my only Division I offer. My only other offer at a high school was a D2 school in New Hampshire, and it was St. Anselm. And I visited there, did not like it at all, and I was like, I'm not going here. And then that was a Thursday to Friday, and then Friday to Sunday, I wanted to, and I really liked it. It was my only offer. Is either that, or I was looking at a lot of Ivy League and Patriot League schools coming out of high school because I did well in school, and I maybe wasn't quite as good to play at a big school, so that's what I was targeting mostly. And besides those schools, I could have walked on at UConn because at the time Don Brown was the defensive coordinator, and he's actually from my hometown, went to my high school, so recruited me pretty heavily and told me eventually I could walk on there. But he's like, hey, if Maine offers you, you're taking that offer because you're not going to want to pay for school and you'll have a better chance of playing. So I took it, and I loved it. I mean, it's a place where you have to be very resourceful because when I was there, it's a lot better now. When I was there, money was tight. Like they can only do so much for us. And so you really had to work extremely hard if you wanted to be a better player and as an overall student and balancing everything. And I also liked how it was in New England. It was like 4.5, 5 hours from my hometown. So it wasn't too far, but it was far enough to anyone wanted to come see me, they had to take a trip. And just where it was. I mean, if you've ever been up there, it's a small town. It's in Orono, Maine, right outside of Bangor. So like, there's no distractions there. There's no big city. There's not like all this crazy stuff happening. So like, you could really just hone in to what you want to do and just, go all in and not be distracted by everything. And I'm just grateful. I mean, they were my only Division I offer, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to go there, improve myself, and give me that work ethic to go to the NFL and make it. So, definitely enjoy my time there for sure.
Awesome.
Pat, in transitioning back to this season, it's something, of course, here on our show, we talked about so much throughout the year, just how unprecedented it was, just from for you guys, just the protocols and all this other stuff. As you kind of look back on it, just what were some things you just think about? It's like, man, we really had to adapt to such an unusual season like it was for really everyone around the league.
Yeah. They essentially try to put us in a bubble. Like the way the protocols went, like we had to get tested for COVID every single day, every day.
No.
But it's not as crazy as people think. Like it's a nasal swab, but it only goes up like a little bit in your nose, doesn't go all the way up. So it wasn't as bad. Yeah. But I mean, dealing with the protocols is kind of crazy. Like towards like the middle of the season, when some teams had outbreaks, like after the Titans had their big outbreak, the NFL started changing some rules around, and so they classified like the building by tiers. So like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 was like all the players, coaches, and like pretty much the most essential people in the building were tier 1. And they made a rule to where tier 1 personnel could not hang out with each other outside of the facility, or we could get like super fined, even suspended, like get the whole organization in trouble. So that was pretty challenging because a lot of people, I mean, they had to be away from their families. Like some people's families, weren't even in the area. They were back where they're from. So people were away from their families for 6 months at a time. And I mean, I think just dealing day-to-day business in the building was more challenging. And then on top of it, not having fans at games was kind of a big deal because, you feed off their energy. It makes the game fun. And it's different for fans too. I mean, they have to watch it from home. They can't even go to the stadium. Like also too, like we do events, like we have events for like either fundraisers or people's foundations, or even just like autograph signings or meet and greets. Like we couldn't do any of that. So it was just weird. It was just different. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think the NFL did a good job to where we could have a season and still finish the whole season, not have too many crazy cases. Like unfortunately, the Ravens, we had an outbreak. I was one of them who had COVID. It was on Thanksgiving. I was positive, so great Thanksgiving.
Right.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, it wasn't too crazy. I mean, hopefully now moving forward, we don't have to deal with a lot of those protocols because some of them were kind of wild. Like we had to wear these little chips called Connexon, ran for it, and if we didn't have it on us at all times and something happened or we didn't have it on practice, they can fine us like $15,000. Like it's just insane. Like just like if we're caught with not having our mask on in the building and the NFL checks all of the cameras, they can fine us $50,000. Like you just think you have to deal with all this stuff. Like so it's like, oh my gosh, like you had to be so like just vigilant with everything all the time because you're just constantly being watched, and you don't want to get one of those fines. That's for sure.
Awesome. But yeah. I mean, I know you guys obviously dealt with it, like you're saying, though. That's probably why, like, I know what happened with the Broncos. They couldn't, because I think all their quarterbacks were together. That was why that ended up happening. You guys at least didn't have that's the reason, I guess. You at least had most of your position group able to play. I know the receivers were the most hit on the group, but I know, Major League Baseball is doing that this year, I believe, with the same thing with the chip and all that, although they were way behind the NFL. Obviously, so much money on the line. That's a big reason. But you mentioned the fans. I know obviously not as, your guys' home games, but you played in probably or at least for our opinion, the game of the year when you guys beat the Browns in Cleveland. At least there were some fans at that one. That, I mean, how, in terms of experience of your favorite games that you've ever played in, where would you rank that one?
In my NFL career, it's definitely top three. I mean, just that game was insane. Like, just like for us too. Like as a team, we couldn't lose. Like we could not lose. We were, I think, 7-5, and going there, we knew they were a great team. Like we played them week 1, and so we went to week, I don't know, 13, 14. we knew like they're a way better team, and the game was a complete shootout the whole time. Like that, and they were just so good. Like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb duo, like unbelievable. It's so hard to stop, and for us to have that shootout with them, and then the whole Lamar Jackson coming out on board that and making that play with Hollywood, like, and then they go down and score again, and we have to go back and score again, like, and then Tucker just sealing the deal, like, oh man, it was unbelievable. That was probably one of my favorite wins all year for sure.
Were you on the field for the play when McSorley got hurt, and then obviously Lamar came like running back out, like, or were you on the bench for that one?
So I was in on the drive, and week before that against the Cowboys, I had a stinger, and stingers, you know, once you get them, you're more prone to get them because you're irritated that nerve that caused the stinger. And that drive, literally the play before Trace gets hurt, I got another, and it was bad to get off the field and get evaluated. So I'm in the tent, and then I'm like, oh God, Trace got hurt because I heard it, and then all of a sudden I like get out of the tent and I'm like, oh, Lamar's back. Oh, it's fourth down. Oh, and then all happened. I was on the field.
Oh man, that's insane. But yeah, I mentioned before, obviously that Rams-Ravens game. In terms of dominating performances, I've been to a number of NFL games, seen shootouts usually with some of those Rams teams from 2017-18. In terms of a physical domination, you guys were a machine. I mean, in terms of, that year, obviously you're the 1 seed in the AFC. Was that maybe like one of the best games you guys played that season, in your opinion, in terms of a full, complete performance? Just everything, at least from I was sitting in one of the end zones, and the holes that I'm seeing, this is before I really knew, your whole story and everything. You're kind of emerging as obviously Pro Bowler that year, but it was just like straight up from the angle I had in the end zone, you could straight up see the lanes every single time in that game for Mark Ingram and for Lamar.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't punt. Same. I think that one stat alone just shows like how dominant we were. We're converting on third downs. Every time we got in the red zone, we score touchdowns. Our defense just stuffed them and caused turnovers. And it was a Monday night game in the Coliseum. And it was that point where our season, we started to roll. And then we did that. And the Rams were a good team. And for us to do that at their place Monday night, it was awesome. And it really propelled our whole rest of our season. And then obviously we all know what happens in the playoffs. But I think that was probably the most complete game we had all year last year for sure.
With Lamar, you've been there since he's been there, and I know, obviously the different players come and go, but just for you, just seeing him progress, as the leader of that offense for you guys, what's it been like just to watch him year to year and see some of the things that he's certainly really taken his game to that next level?
Yeah. When he first got here, everybody didn't think he was a quarterback, besides the Ravens and maybe other teams that are interested. But overall, a lot of media and analysts and other organizations didn't see him as a quarterback. So I think him coming, he was already super humbled and he just wanted to work. And when he first got here, you saw the raw talent and the way he moved and his leadership too. Like guys kind of corral around him just because he's one of those guys where he doesn't want to be like above anybody or a leader. He wants to be part of the team. He wants to be like everybody else and just does his thing, and everyone kind of respects that and want to play for him. But when he first got here, he struggled just even like with a play call. I remember one time in OTAs. So OTAs is like kind of like a spring, like our spring ball, and he like literally messed up the play call like 3 or 4 times. Like he had to keep doing it. So just seeing that, and then his rookie year when he got thrown in, probably 6 weeks left in the season because Joe got hurt, and he won like 5 out of 6 of our games, just being just unnatural, just talent, and just getting his scout looks, and then transition from year 1 to year 2. Just see how big of a jump he had, just because he was officially the starter. He was officially getting all the reps with the ones, all this whole spring, all of camp. He was getting everything. And just to see the way he's developing in his passing game overall, just the offense, and also the coaching staff. Greg Roman became the offensive coordinator his second year, so he was able to really just blend everything together for him and the whole offense. And then to see him get the MVP his second year after 2 years before that, everybody doubted he could even be a quarterback, and now he's winning the MVP. And then now we have this year. People can say rocky start and all this stuff and whatever, and regardless, we still went to the playoffs, still and won his first game against a team that we've lost twice to now. And I think he's slowly just silencing the doubters he's had. But I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter because people still doubt Tom Brady. Like, dude won 7
Yeah.
People are still going to be like, oh, Tom this, Tom that. It's going to be the same with Lamar. Maybe his style of play is different than most quarterbacks. Yeah, he runs the ball a lot, but guess what? He runs it very well. So, like, why do that with him? It makes our offense more explosive, more dynamic. He can run it. He can give it to Jacob Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Me and Nick Boyle will lead block for him, or he could pass it to any of our receivers or tight ends. And but yeah, I mean, shoot, he's a great guy. And the crazy thing too, he's so young. I think he just turned 24.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe, yeah, something like that.
Right, so young. Like I think it was. I think Peyton Manning went to the playoffs 3 times and didn't win 1 game, and like all this stuff. So like people to critique him for all that stuff, like it's whatever. Honestly, I don't think it bothers him. Like he just cares about winning and just cares about being a good teammate, and that's all he works on and cares about. So definitely happy to be his teammate for sure. He's a good guy.
Yeah, awesome. Obviously, your role in the offense with Greg Roman, I know you guys go back from when you first signed with the Ravens, right? He was the run game coordinator at the time and kind of pulled you in and had you start doing some of those fullback drills. Did he have any idea that you had at least high school experience playing fullback, or did he just kind of see a big body and was like, oh, maybe let's throw this guy in here and see how this works?
Pretty much. I mean, my first week of OTAs, my rookie year, I was undrafted defensive lineman out of Maine. And I'm just trying to make the team. I'm trying to make an impression, show them like, hey, I can play. I know the plays. I can do it well. I'm physical. I run the ball. I'm a good teammate, all this stuff. So probably a week in, and he comes up to me in the hallways. And at this time too, just to give you a little more backstory, Kyle Juszczyk was the fullback here, and he signed a big contract extension, in the offseason with 49ers. And all they had left for a fullback was a undrafted rookie and a running back who they're trying to convert to a fullback. And after a week of seeing them, they were probably like, we might have to maybe try to see somebody else or something. So that's when they tried me at the position. Yeah. And Greg Roman came up to me in the hallway, and he's just like, hey, Pat, we're going to try you a rep at fullback, and it's just going to be like a 90 lead. So you're going to line up in the eye, and you're just going to lead up on the mic. And that's pretty much all he told me. And I'm like, all right. So then the play happens, and like for me, like, I think the reason why I've had success in this league is because I've made the most of my opportunities. Whenever I've been given an opportunity, for the most part, I've done well. And what happened was that one play, Willie Henry was at 3 technique at the time. And as soon as the ball was snapped, he like broke into our backfield right away. And I like instinctively like pushed him out of the way, and then let up on the mic and got the mic, and the ball carrier just followed me perfectly. And me also just being kind of a smart player trying to make an impression. As soon as that play happened, I went right next to Harbaugh, because Harbaugh sits. So when we're having plays in practice, the plays are happening 15 yards back. We're all on the field, and it's like split in the middle. Offense on this side, defense on the other side, all watching the plays happen. And he's right in the middle. So I stood right next to him, and he was like, He's like, that looked pretty good. He's like, have you done that before? I'm like, yeah, I actually did in high school. And as soon as it said that, you could tell he was like, slowly started like thinking and like, oh, okay, he's done this before. He did it pretty well. Okay. So then after that, I started to get more reps. I started to get more reps at fullback and also some tight end stuff, because Greg Roman was the tight ends coach and the run game coordinator. So he wanted me to do a little bit of both. And then, I mean, after that, I probably didn't do too much until training camp. Even a week into training camp, my rookie year, I still didn't do that much. It was all defense. And then probably, I think, the second or third game, they gave me some reps in the game, and it was against the Dolphins. And I don't know what was going on, but I've never had like 5 pancakes. Like I was just like beginner's luck. Like I'm just kind of out there, just like instinctively trying to do things. But I did very well. And then at that point, they kind of gave me my own package. It was like I was wearing number 91, and it was like base 90. I would go in, have to like be eligible to get in there, and I did well enough in the rest of training camp, but I made the team my rookie year as a fullback and an emergency defensive line. And then I did that for 3 years. And last year I was able to play more defense and offense. And then obviously, I was doing very well on offense. So I started playing mostly offense. And then this offseason, that's when they completely just put me on offense. So
as well as it worked out for you, man, it sounds like they got pretty fortunate in Baltimore with Kyle leaving, and then you just step in. They're like, we didn't even draft this guy. He comes in immediately, fills in exactly what we need. So obviously, Juszczyk is a great receiver out of the backfield. You started, especially, I know in the Titans playoff game, you had 3 catches, that one of those big drives. Do you think that'll be a decent part of the package? Maybe this year you'll add that to it in Baltimore in terms of, obviously, most of the time, the defender is going to think they're also worried about you running them over. If you just kind of slip out past them, that gives a nice little variation to a lot of what you guys do in your offense.
Yeah. The thing about me too is I didn't play offense in college. So like me, from my rookie year to now, like I've learned so much, just like even like basic things that like guys have been doing since Pop Warner, I've never done. And I'm expected to do it against the elite athletes who have been playing so long. And it's like, so I've grown a lot in the passing game and certain things with like my route running and just certain things. So hopefully this year I can just keep expanding my role like I've done every year and just keep, running more routes, get better at them to where I can do them in the games. And I think that I've shown I've had some success in the passing game. So it's like, why not just keep, expanding my role there. So, we'll see what happens when we get down there. And we don't even know if we're going to have no TAs. It might be all virtual again. See what happens, but I'm ready for whatever. So,
and then my last kind of fullback focused question. I know you've talked about fullback assists a decent amount. We talk a decent amount on our podcast about fantasy football kind of stuff for our audience. Do you believe that this is just an idea I put down? Do you think fullback assists should become a part of fantasy football?
I think any blocking should be a stat, even for linemen. Like they a lot of stuff. They get no gore and nothing. Like it's insane. Like half the time, running back can get a 20-yard touchdown, not even be touched, and it's like, oh, the running back's so great. It's like that blocking was amazing. Like whoever blocked all their stuff. So I think there should be some changes for sure. Because it can also help with fans knowing players, recognizing players that people don't know about, and then also for contracts too. Say, oh, he's very good at, whatever. So I think it's cool that is it Barstool that's been doing it or
fullback assist. Yeah.
I think it's pretty sweet. It just gives more recognition to positions that don't get it very often. So
it is a bit unfair. Like it feels like a lot of the time when there's people highlighting offensive line player or any blocking, it's when there's like mistakes. Like everyone's talking about the Chiefs now and the Super Bowl, like, oh, it's not Pat's fault, which of course that's true, but at the same time, there should be a lot more glory. If no one's talking about you in the offensive line, you're probably doing your job, it feels like. So yeah, in terms of, you talked a bit about your pancake blocks, talked about in terms of your nickname. So I was trying to look at, I heard on Ravens podcast you're on, that you said that some of the guys call you Party Pat. And then we have Pancake Pat and Project Pat. So which is it all of them, or is there one nickname that is the standard at this point?
It kind of explains who I am. My role here is expanded throughout multiple positions, different rooms every year. So it's like the same with my nicknames. Like at first it was Project Pat. Brandon Williams gave it to me in OTAs my rookie year. And at first I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, because I'm like, you kind of say like I'm a project, like I'm a lot of work that and I later find out it's because there's a rapper named Project Pat, and I had no idea. Like I've heard one song. No, he's a 90s rapper, so I didn't. And then it kind of just, people started calling me different things. Like I think it was some guys in the weight room, like some of the coaches in there, like started calling me Party Pat. And then I think it was, and then once I made the Pro Bowl, it was Pro Bowl Pat for a little bit. And then once I got my contract extension, it was Paid Pat. So then this past off season, talking to agency and stuff, I'm like, you know what? Like I want to start branding, because I just made a Pro Bowl. I just signed a 2-year extension here. People are starting to know me. Everyone knows me here as Project Pat, and I want to start whatever. So we made a website, thepatrickricard.com. We have a branding and everything on it, like my logo, and I think it actually came out pretty nice, and it's kind of surreal. Never thought I'd have my own website or all my own branding and all that stuff. So, this year, the way I was playing, I pride myself being physical and playing to the whistle, and guys absolutely hate it. They hate it. They think they're going to stop, but don't, because the whistle isn't blowing yet, and that's how I play. And I've been pancaking a lot of guys, putting them on their back, on top of them, putting them on the ground. And I was just thinking, like, this is a great branding opportunity, because my website, they put on some clothing gear on there, just different things like Project Pats on there with some hoodies, some t-shirts with my logos. And I'm like, it'd be a cool shirt if we did something Pancake Pat and do a shirt for it. And we collabed the guys on the website and we did it. And then Lamar started calling me Pancake Pat and some other guys on the team. And that's what kind of people know me now. So it's just, any of those nicknames, it's going to be ever expanding. Probably next year, there should be something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm sure I'll think of something, or something will happen. So we're going to have it. But right now, yeah, Pancake Pat's kind of my go-to right now.
Yeah, no, that shirt's pretty sweet. I've seen the pancake one. Obviously, Party Pat, you can make one work with that. Maybe put a little party hat on you. There's all sorts of things you can do there.
Exactly.
Maybe that's what we need, Dillon. Dillon, we have him on the podcast. He's podcast Pat now. Let's get some gear. Let's get some merch for that. So
I need to get his merch. Like I was saying, if we have Pat on again, I'll have the shirt on that time. I'm going to say the last question, kind of random thing I put down here. There's a story that a lot of people covered when I think it was during the season, obviously during quarantine, where you had an order from Outback Steakhouse be taken by your neighbor, and that was kind of how you met your neighbor. I've had the same thing happen, although they brought the food to my door, which is super nice. I'd never met them before, but nonetheless, have you talked to that neighbor again? Is there any sort of relationship there, or is it just a one-time deal?
It's actually happened in like November. Like it was recent. So pretty much what happened was I'm moving now, so I really don't care if I tell people. So I live in a townhouse, so like all the townhouses are all the same, and sometimes they accidentally drop it off to my neighbor's house. So it's happened a few times, and I have a ring on my door, so I know somebody walks over, takes my food or whatever. So I ordered it, and it said I got dropped off, because DoorDash, when they drop it off, they send you a text and a picture of where they dropped it off. So I go outside and I'm like looking around, I'm like, still my food? And then I look at the picture and I'm like, that's my neighbor's doormat and my food is not there. So then I knock on the door times and doesn't answer. So then I'm like, okay. I call my wife and she's like, no, he probably has it or knows where it is, because it wouldn't just vanish from his doorstep. So I knock again a bunch of times. Like I'm knocking loud and pressing. And all of a sudden he comes out, and at that point I know he has it, because why did he not enter the door the first time? So now I just straight up accuse him. I show him the picture. I'm like, where's my food and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. He gets all nervous and like, doesn't make sense. Like, start talking and stuff. And then he finally like, says like, yeah, I have it upstairs. Like, I'll bring it down. Brings it down to me, and it's already on a plate. You already took all my food out and put it like a paper plate and put to eat it. It's been like 5-10 minutes since it was dropped off. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me right now? So then I try to explain to him, I'm like, I don't want this to happen again. Like, and then all of a sudden he started to get like all hot and pressed and like got in my face a little bit. And I'm like, you're so wrong right now.
Yeah.
Like you stole my food. Like, what are you talking about? So then pretty much, long story short, the next night I get someone knocking on my door at like 10 o'clock, and it's a lady. And I'm like, what the heck? Go downstairs. It's his mother. That my neighbor is his mother. And this dude is like my age. He looks like the 20s, late 20s, whatever. And I don't know if he lives with her or he stays there sometimes, but she apologized and for all this. And I don't ever really see them anyways. They're never really outside or anything like that. And I just put on Twitter, and then Twitter ate it up.
Yeah.
When football, the New York Post took it. Like, and then DoorDash reached out to me. Outback reached out to me. And then Green Turtles, a local like pub in the area, reached out to me. So I mean, I turned out pretty well. So hopefully it was my food again. But yeah, that's crazy, dude. Just don't take. If it's not yours, it's on.
Yeah. And it usually says your name on it. It's not like you couldn't have seen like, oh, this address is written down.
Yeah. Either don't take it or put it inside and then just wait and see if somebody, knocks on the door. Hey, she food anywhere? I don't know. Crazy, but.
Well, we know someone that's going to be excited that you're moving then. So at least one or two people. So Pat, man, this has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Before we hop off here, you've obviously talked about the website, thepatrickricard.com. You've got all kinds of stuff over there. The pancake shirts, like we mentioned, you got masks, you got all sorts of stuff. Anything else you want to plug before we hop off here?
Yeah, so besides that, all my social media is all PRIC, PRIC 508. And on top of that, I also do cameos. So if anyone needs a personalized video from myself for anything, Valentine's Day is coming up. So if people will email your video and something quick for a present, I'll do it for you guys. But yeah, check it out. It's all on my website. Everything's on there. So it's a lot easier as well.
All right. Thanks to Pat Ricard for joining us here on the podcast. Dillon, that was a lot of fun to get some insight into him. And best of all, to get some great advice on not stealing your neighbor's food. I thought that was very important to know.
Yeah, no, he was great. Super nice, really thorough answers. And he was a good sport with all the kind of different things we brought up. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it was for sure. And we hopefully we'll get him back on here soon. Hopefully we'll get some more players in the works here to have on the podcast as we go throughout the offseason. As we always say, the NFL offseason is just nuts. But we still want to talk to some players as all the craziness is going on around it. So, Dillon, a lot of stuff going on over Clutch Points. As we said, we'll have everything covered on the NFL offseason, NBA in full swing, baseball about to start, all kinds of stuff happening over Clutch Points.
Yeah, with spring training about to start, you can follow baseball games in the ClutchPoints app. All the NBA games, the ones that don't get postponed, you can follow those in the app. As Blake noted, yeah, we'll have plenty of coverage of the NFL on both in the app and the NFL section there on ClutchPoints.com on the NFL tab. Plenty of stuff looking at, so many rumors, so many quarterback things. Now we have, I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere. I know we haven't really talked about that on our podcast yet, but that's the latest rumor that by the time you guys listen to this, it'll be a couple days later. So we'll see what happens by then. Maybe there'll be another quarterback that's and the rumors, but yeah, we got it all covered at Clutch Points. A lot of draft coverage coming up as well. So yeah, it should be fun.
One thing we do know is Lamar Jackson's not getting traded. I'm pretty sure we didn't ask Pat that, but I think he could have confirmed any rumors out there that was going to happen. So check everything out over at Clutch Points and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Any podcast app you use, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere, just search for Establish the Pass. You can find us on there. We do this a couple times a week here and throughout the off season. So lots of great football stuff to bring to you. So be sure to subscribe for absolutely free on any of those platforms. And thanks as always to the fine folks at Blue Wire for all that they do. And thank you as always for listening. We'll talk to you guys next time here on the Establish the Pass podcast.